Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You wake up not in your own bed, but on a rough straw mattress in a villa on the outskirts of ancient Rome. The air smells faintly of olive oil and dust. Somewhere in the courtyard, a flock of chickens is making a racket, and a house slave is sweeping last night's ashes from the hearth. You are not a senator, not a gladiator, not even a merchant or craftsman. No, today, your fate is to get married. You might be thinking, how bad can that be? Maybe your mind flashes to marble columns, togas and stolas, bright mosaics, and a glorious wedding feast with fountains of honey and wine. Or perhaps you picture some epic romance, a handsome Roman swooping in on a white horse to sweep you off your feet. After all, movies and books have taught us to expect ancient weddings to be dramatic, glamorous, and just a little bit magical. Let me stop you right there. Because if you think a Roman wedding is about love, luxury, or personal choice, prepare for a very rude awakening. In Rome, marriage is not your decision. Marriage is a business deal, a political tool, a weapon for climbing the social ladder, or forging a truce between feuding families. If you are a girl, your father and a prospective husband, whom you may have never met, have already signed contracts, exchanged gifts, and shaken hands. If you are a boy, your parents have probably chosen the right bride to solidify family fortunes, gain a new estate, or seal a crucial alliance. And age? Age is just a number specifically, a very small number. Imagine waking up on your 12th birthday, and instead of receiving a cake or a new tunic, you are handed a wedding dress. Roman girls are often betrothed before they even reach puberty. Roman boys, if from a noble family, may be pushed into marriage before they can even grow a proper beard. Forget teenage crushes or finding yourself. Your family is far more interested in what you can bring to their honor and legacy than in your happiness. Maybe you try to protest. You say, but I don't even know him. I want to fall in love. What about my dreams? Your parents might laugh or, worse, ignore you. Because in Rome, marriage is about duty. Your job is to obey, to serve your household, to bear children, preferably sons, and to never bring shame upon your family name. You want to choose your own partner. Sorry, but that concept doesn't even exist yet. The idea that two people might marry for love is, to a Roman, somewhere between bizarre and dangerous. Marrying for love is what the foolish do, and usually they regret it. On the morning of your wedding, the villa bustles with preparation. Not for you, but for the guests. The dowry, the sacrifices to the household gods, and the all-important legal paperwork. Your friends, if you have any left, whisper nervously, hoping you'll be lucky, that your husband is at least kind, or that your new wife is at least not a terror. Deep down everyone knows, luck is all you have. Because in the Roman world, a good marriage is not a guarantee, it's a miracle. Now, take a look in the polished bronze mirror. See those anxious eyes? The trembling hands? That's not just nerves. That's the dawning realization that after today, your life is no longer your own. From the moment you say your vows, everything changes. For a girl, your father's power over you passes straight to your new husband. For a boy, you suddenly bear the crushing weight of family expectations and the pressure to carry on the bloodline. Still think you could survive a Roman marriage? Don't answer yet. We're only just getting started. Wait until you hear what really goes on at these weddings, how the rituals are less celebration and more public ordeal, and how, in this world, saying "I do" means surrendering not just your freedom, but everything you thought you were. Are you ready to step through the threshold? Are you ready to see the truth behind the marble columns and golden laurel wreaths? Let's go. Your Roman wedding day has just begun, and already you're wishing you could run. Forget everything you know about wedding bells, bridal bouquets, or whispered, "I love yous." In ancient Rome, the concept of a love match is as alien as electricity or pizza delivery. Here, marriage is a transaction, pure and simple. And you, dear reader, are the currency. If you're a daughter in a well-off Roman family, your future was probably signed away while you were still in the nursery. Your father paterfamilias holds total power. He alone arranges your marriage, often years before you're old enough to understand what the word even means. Why? Because marriage is how fortunes are protected, estates expanded, and alliances forged. Your hand is a bargaining chip. Your heart doesn't even enter the equation. Maybe you hope for some say in the matter, a secret romance, a chance to pick the partner of your dreams. Not here. The only matchmaking is done at the family council table, usually accompanied by loud debates about dowries, property, and the political reliability of your future in-laws. Even your name is part of the deal. Upon marriage, many Roman women take a feminized version of their husband's family name, erasing another trace of who they once were. If you're a young man, don't get too comfortable. Your marriage, too, is strictly a family affair. The right bride could bring lands, money, or a coveted connection to a powerful clan. Marrying down for love? You'll get a lecture about duty and a scornful shake of the head. Refuse the match, and you risk your inheritance, your standing, maybe even your place at the family dinner table. And what about age? Roman law says girls can legally marry at 12, boys at 14. But in reality, marriages are arranged even earlier, especially among the elite. The ink dries on contracts while you're still playing with toys. Don't worry, no one expects you to know your spouse before the big day. Why would you? Love is considered a distraction, even a liability. Let's talk dowries. In Rome, a wedding isn't just a union of two people. It's a merger of two households. The bride's family must pay a dowry, often a staggering sum, to the groom's. Think of it as the ancient equivalent of a bank transfer, only with more sheep and silverware. If the marriage ends, and they sometimes do, the dowry might go back to the bride's family, but only after lengthy legal squabbles. Either way, the woman herself rarely has any control over this fortune, before or after the wedding. The wedding preparations are more about business than celebration. There are contracts to sign, witnesses to bribe, omens to consult, and household gods to appease. A single bad omen, a crow calling at the wrong time, thunder during the procession, could delay or doom the whole affair. If that happens, the parties simply pack up and try again another day. Don't expect anyone to shed a tear for your ruined wedding dreams, Dot. And then comes the ritual itself. Picture a solemn march, led by flutists and torchbearers, with the bride, veiled in a bright orange-yellow cloth, paraded from her father's house to her new husband's home. She's flanked by male relatives, clutching her tightly in case she gets cold feet, which, let's be honest, she probably does. There's a ceremonial kidnapping, a symbolic reenactment of the legendary founding of Rome by Romulus and his men. The bride is wrenched from her mother's arms, sometimes with tears, sometimes with theatrical screaming, always under the watchful eyes of family and neighbors. The guests laugh, toast, and throw nuts at the couple. Don't ask Roman. Traditions are strange. You, as the bride or groom, have little to say in the matter. Your job is to smile, endure the awkwardness, and hope that the omens are favorable. The marriage contract is read aloud, the vows exchanged, and then it's off to the new house, where a new set of rules and expectations await. If, for a fleeting moment, you dreamed of romance, passion, or even simple choice, now is when reality sets in. The Roman marriage is not a love story. It's a duty, a transaction, and a lifelong contract where your feelings are, at best, an afterthought not so ready for your new life. Don't answer yet. The hard part is only just beginning. If you thought the negotiations and family drama were stressful, just wait until you experience a Roman wedding day for yourself. Forget quiet, candlelit vows or private moments of intimacy. This is ancient Rome, where everything is public, symbolic, and a little bit bizarre. The day begins at dawn, with the bride dressed in her wedding stola, a long snow-white tunic, over which a bright saffron orange-yellow veil, called the flammeum, is draped. Her hair is parted into 6 braids, woven with woolen bands, as a nod to Rome's legendary Vestal Virgins, supposedly to bring purity and favor from the gods. The symbolism is everywhere, and none of it is subtle. You aren't just a bride. You are a walking, breathing vessel of family honor and tradition. Don't expect privacy. Your entire household, extended relatives, neighbors, and sometimes even strangers crowd into the atrium to watch every move. The wedding is less about the couple and more about the spectacle, a public declaration that 2 families have just made a serious investment. Witnesses count without them. The marriage isn't legal. There are sacrifices to household gods, blessings from elders, and superstitions at every turn. Did someone sneeze? Bad omen. Dog bark? Start the prayers again. And then comes the most awkward part, the formal tearing away of the bride from her mother's embrace. No matter your age, there's a small ceremony where your mother weeps, real or performed, as you're stolen by your new husband's family. This isn't just for show. It's a reenactment of the founding myth of Rome, when the first Roman men famously abducted their brides from neighboring tribes. No one expects you to resist for real, but everyone expects a bit of drama. If you're the bride, you might feel both heartbroken and humiliated. If you're the groom, you're expected to look proud, confident, and most importantly ready to assert your new authority. The wedding procession itself is a full-blown parade. Picture yourself walking, surrounded by flutists and torchbearers, while children run ahead tossing walnuts, symbolizing fertility and letting go of childhood. Sometimes the party is so loud that it spills into the street, drawing curious onlookers, and inevitably, gossip at your new home. The entrance is decorated with flowers and laurel branches. Before you cross the threshold, there's a moment of high tension. The groom must lift the bride over the doorstep, not out of romance, but to ward off evil spirits lurking on the ground. Step wrong, trip, or hesitate. You risk bringing bad luck on your marriage, and trust me, everyone is watching. Once inside, a feast is held, but don't expect to relax. The seating order, food, and toasts are all dictated by strict rules. Everything, from which gods are invoked to how the wine is poured, has a hidden meaning, and a single mistake can be fodder for years of family gossip. The pressure to perform is immense. This is your official debut as husband and wife, and the whole city seems to be keeping score. And then there's the ultimate public ordeal, the wedding night. In some families, especially among the upper classes, there's a tradition that the bride and groom's first night together must be witnessed in some fashion. Sometimes it means relatives or friends are nearby in an adjoining room, making sure the marriage is consummated. Sometimes there are actual witnesses to the bedchamber door being closed and locked, who then report back to the families. The idea of privacy is almost non-existent. The goal is to guarantee that everything is legitimate, above board, and most importantly fertile. Feeling anxious yet? You should. Because a Roman wedding isn't just a milestone, it's an initiation into a lifetime of scrutiny, expectations, and rules. Your role as a spouse begins not with affection, but with a test of performance for the benefit of 2 families, a neighborhood, and sometimes an entire social class. If you thought the wedding was nerve-wracking, just wait until you wake up the next morning and realize the real challenges have only just begun. And so, As the last wedding guest stumbles home and the fire in the hearth burns low, you find yourself lying awake, still in your elaborate hair and wedding robe, listening to the distant sounds of Rome and wondering, is this the beginning of happiness or just a new chapter of survival? Welcome to married life in the Roman Empire. If you're already exhausted, you haven't seen anything yet. You'd think that after surviving the whirlwind of your Roman wedding day, things could only get easier. You'd be wrong, because if you are a woman, stepping through the door of your new husband's house is less a fresh start and more a surrender of everything you ever owned, even your sense of self. From the moment you cross that threshold, the rules change. You are no longer under your father's authority, the ancient Roman concept of patria potestas, but under the complete control of your husband or, in some cases, your father-in-law, if he is still alive, and rules the family as the ultimate. Pater familias. What you wear, where you go, who you see, even how you spend your day, all are decided for you. Independence is a fantasy, not a right. Your new title? Matrona Roman, wife and mother. It sounds grand, but in reality, it means you become the household's most valuable possession, a symbol of honor and respectability, but also its most closely watched. Your chief purpose, to provide legitimate heirs, preferably sons, and to keep the household running smoothly, but always in your husband's shadow. Let's talk about rights, because as a Roman woman, you have very few. Your property legally belongs to your husband. Your dowry, controlled by him, and if the marriage ends, only sometimes returned to your family after endless legal wrangling. Your children, also legally his. Even your name is subsumed. You often take a feminized version of his family name and lose your own personal identity with each step. Worse still, your life is shaped by an unyielding double standard. Roman society expects you to be loyal, modest, and utterly faithful. A whisper of scandal, real or imagined, can mean disaster. Adultery is a crime for women, punishable by public disgrace, exile, even death. Meanwhile, your husband's dalliances are considered normal, even expected. Roman law is built to protect his interests, not yours. Your daily routine is grueling, even for the privileged. Wealthy wives may command slaves and oversee great households, but this only adds to the pressure. The cleanliness of the home, the behavior of the children, even the quality of the dinner table, are all seen as reflections of your virtue and competence. Step out of line, and your reputation, and by extension, your family's standing, could be ruined overnight. And if you dream of escaping a miserable marriage, think again. Divorce, while technically possible, is almost always initiated by the man. If you, as a woman, want out, you'll need ironclad evidence of abuse or neglect, the support of powerful relatives, and the courage to withstand scandal. Most women, even those in unhappy marriages, endure in silence, hoping to keep their children and save face for their families. Motherhood itself is no gentle reward. Pregnancy and childbirth are dangerous in any era, but in ancient Rome, they are fraught with risk. There are no hospitals, no reliable doctors. Midwives do their best, but infection, hemorrhage, and tragedy are always waiting in the shadows. Many women die in childbirth. Many more live with lifelong injuries. Yet, the pressure to produce heirs never lifts. Each new pregnancy is both a duty and a gamble with your life. Loneliness can be as harsh as any law. Visits with friends or your birth family are limited and closely monitored. Gossip is a daily threat, as is the rivalry among other women in the household, mothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, even slaves who might report your every word. Your best weapon is discretion. Speak softly, show deference, never stand out. Survival depends on being invisible, obedient, and endlessly adaptable. Every so often, you might hear stories of exceptional women: Livia Drusilla, Agrippina the younger, and others who wielded real power behind the scenes. But these are the rare exceptions, not the rule. For most, life is a balancing act. Serve, obey, endure, and hope for a little kindness along the way. So if you think you could handle marriage in ancient Rome, ask yourself, could you surrender? Your freedom, your property, your voice, and even your name, all for a life of duty, scrutiny, and risk? Most would not last a week. But here, there is no escape. Your story is written by others, and you must play your part, no matter how heavy the role. If you thought you could coast through marriage in ancient Rome by simply following the rules, think again. Roman society wasn't just built on power and order. It was obsessed with control, conformity, and the relentless enforcement of duty. And nowhere was this more visible than in the expectations and punishments placed upon married couples, especially wives. From your first morning as a Roman spouse, the message is clear. Your life is no longer your own. If you are a woman, your chief responsibility is to deliver legitimate heirs, preferably sons. That pressure isn't subtle. It's spelled out in law, custom, and every pointed comment from your mother-in-law. Each pregnancy is celebrated, but each failure, be it miscarriage, infant death, or simply not bearing sons, brings shame, whispered gossip, and sometimes outright blame. The family's honor, lineage, and future all hang on your ability to endure childbirth again and again, regardless of the risks. But that's not all. Your daily duties stretch far beyond motherhood. You are expected to manage the household efficiently, supervise slaves, prepare feasts for holidays, ensure the home is spotless, teach your children proper values, and maintain strict moral standards. Every aspect of your behavior is up for judgment, from how you greet guests to the way you speak to servants. Fail at any task, and you risk more than just a scolding. You risk your reputation and your children's prospects. Now let's talk about fidelity. For a Roman woman, faithfulness is enforced by law and social code. Adultery isn't just a private matter, it's a criminal offense, punishable by public disgrace, exile, or even death. The Lex Julia de Adulterius Augustuses. Infamous adultery law empowered fathers to kill daughters, caught in the act, and husbands to punish unfaithful wives, however they saw fit. The standard was brutally clear. A single rumor, a jealous rival's whisper, or a malicious slave's accusation could mean disaster. And what about men? The double standard is hard to miss. While men were officially discouraged from extramarital affairs, society looked the other way when they visited brothels, took lovers, or fathered children out of wedlock. As long as they didn't compromise another man's wife or daughter, their indiscretions were tolerated, even expected among the powerful. The only real crime was bringing shame upon the family or drawing unwanted public attention. Should conflict arise in your marriage, don't count on a fair hearing. The law is not on your side. Husbands have the legal right to discipline their wives, and fathers retain power over daughters for life in some family systems. Divorce is technically possible, but the process is grueling. A woman needs substantial evidence and powerful backing to initiate a separation. Most endure in silence, calculating that even a bad marriage is safer than public disgrace or losing their children. Physical punishment, while not universal, is certainly not rare. Some men believe it is their right to correct a wife's behavior through force, whether it's a slap, a public scolding, or something harsher. More commonly, correction comes in the form of social isolation, locking you out of family gatherings, cutting your allowance, or spreading rumors to destroy your standing. Humiliation is a favored weapon. And then there is the constant threat of exile or death. If you are accused of adultery, plotting against your husband, or disgracing your family, you may be sent away, banished to a remote villa, a distant island, or a nunnery. In extreme cases, especially among the elite, Punishment can be swift and fatal. Your story ends not with freedom, but with silence. The same culture of discipline and conformity applies to men, though less harshly. Fail to provide for your family? Mismanage your estate? Fall into debt or scandal? You might lose your inheritance, your social standing, or your place in the Senate. Public shame was the ultimate punishment for a Roman man. His reputation, once lost, was nearly impossible. To regain doubt in this world, duty isn't just expected, it's demanded. The price for failure is not just personal disappointment, but ruin for everyone you love. Every day is a test of endurance, caution, and the careful navigation of rules written by men who believed the family was the foundation of Rome itself. So, as you wake each day to the scrutiny of your household, the watchful eyes of neighbors, and the whispering streets of Rome, remember, in the Roman Empire, marriage is a lifelong performance, and the penalties for slipping out of character are steep, swift, and sometimes final. So, you've survived the spectacle of your wedding day and endured the suffocating weight of new expectations. Maybe, for a fleeting moment, you hope that life will become easier once the rituals are over. Maybe you can settle in, carve out a small corner of comfort, and find some happiness in your new home. But in ancient Rome, marriage is not a finish line. It's the beginning of a lifelong. Surrender. As a new spouse, your every move is dictated by a web of invisible rules. If you are a woman, your world shrinks overnight. You are confined to the domus, the Roman household, where your movements are monitored and your daily routine revolves around serving others. Want to visit your parents or siblings? Only with your husband's permission. Want to attend a religious festival or visit the market? Not unless it's deemed proper, and often only in the company of a trusted family member or a watchful slave. Even your friendships are suspect. Any bond outside the family is eyed with suspicion, lest it breed gossip or scandal. Old confidants from childhood fade away, and any new friend is as likely to become a rival as a true companion. The closest relationships you maintain are often with your children or with the household slaves, both groups as powerless as yourself. Inside the home, your place in the hierarchy is rarely secure. If your father-in-law is still alive, he, not your husband, may rule the house as the ultimate authority. The paterfamilias decides everything: when to eat, how the household runs, and even the fates of children and grandchildren. As a wife, you answer first to him, then to your husband, and finally to the expectations of every older woman in the household, your mother-in-law, sisters-in-law, widowed aunts. Every misstep can become a family drama. Every mistake a topic for endless, private discussion. Your personal tastes, ambitions, even your faith are subject to negotiation or, more often, outright suppression. Want to pursue a craft or manage your own inheritance? Rarely permitted. Curious about politics, poetry, or public life? Those are men's worlds. Your opinions are welcome only if they align with your husband's or father-in-law's interests. And if you're a man, don't imagine you're free. Your life is equally mapped out, expected to serve the state, climb the political ladder, defend family honor, and keep the estate in order. Fail, and you risk more than your own disappointment. You endanger your children's futures and your family's reputation for generations. You might have more mobility than your wife, but the pressure to conform is relentless and unforgiving. But perhaps the greatest prison is the lack of control over your own children. If you are a mother, the law does not recognize you as a legal guardian. Your children belong to your husband or his father, who decides their education, marriages, and even their fate in times of crisis. If you are widowed, you may be forced to remarry or remain under the control of your in-laws, depending on who holds the family wealth. And what of love? It flickers on the margins, sometimes kindling in the cracks between duty and routine. Some couples learn to respect, even care for each other over time. But marriage, at its core, is a public contract, not a private comfort. Show too much affection. In public, and people whisper. Show too little, and they suspect something is wrong. Emotional honesty is a luxury few can afford. In the rare event that you outlive your husband, don't expect to gain freedom. As a widow, your fate rests in the hands of your son, your late husband's family, or a new husband chosen by the family council. Widows with wealth are prime targets for remarriage, often against their will. Widows without wealth? They are more likely to be forgotten, left to a life of quiet obedience and diminishing resources. The truth is, in the Roman Empire, marriage is not a partnership, it's a hierarchy. Your place is determined not by who you are, but by whom you serve, and how well you disappear into the expectations of others. Freedom is a distant dream, and the power to choose even in the smallest details is a rare and fleeting privilege. So, as you lie in your cold Roman bed, listening to the muted sounds of a city that values duty over desire, you might wonder, can anyone truly survive marriage here, or do they simply endure, day after day, until all dreams of choice fade into history? You might imagine that, over time, people simply grew used to the constraints of Roman marriage, that routine would make obedience easier, that patience and habit could smooth out the daily hardships. But you would be mistaken. For most, every day brought a fresh set of frustrations and subtle humiliations, daily test of endurance that wore down the spirit as surely as age wore down the body. If you are a Roman wife, your world is a carefully managed stage, and your primary skill is knowing how and when to become invisible. You rise before dawn, perhaps to the sound of the house slaves already beginning their chores. The first responsibility is overseeing the day's work, assigning tasks to servants, making sure food is prepared, wool is spun, and the household runs as smoothly as any military campaign. Every detail, from the color of the tablecloth to the amount of olive oil used, can become a matter of family reputation. If anything goes wrong, the blame lands on your shoulders, never mind how many hands are truly at fault. Privacy is almost non-existent. Your letters might be intercepted, your conversations overheard by slaves or relatives, your comings and goings questioned. Want a moment of solitude? Good luck. The domus is always alive with activity, gossip, and prying eyes. As for leisure, forget about it. While poets and painters sometimes depict the Roman matron at her loom or lyre, most women have little free time. Even wealthy wives must be vigilant. Idle hands are considered suspicious, a sign that you are neglecting your duties or plotting something unseemly. Outwardly, you must always appear composed and cheerful, even if you feel isolated or deeply unhappy. Tears are for private moments if you can find any. Show too much emotion, and you risk drawing unwanted attention. Show too little, and you might be accused of coldness or disloyalty. The safest path is to mask everything. Smile when spoken to, lower your eyes, and keep your opinions and fears locked away. Of course, survival in a Roman marriage is not just about following the rules, it's about mastering the delicate arts of subtlety and adaptation. You learn when to agree and when to feign ignorance, when to offer gentle advice and when to remain silent, when to seek an ally among other women in the household, and when to accept that even a confidant could become a rival if the winds change. You master the art of compromise, of saying just enough to please, but never so much as to stand out. Some women develop a dry wit, using humor as a shield against monotony and control. Others find solace in religion or small acts of kindness helping. A slave, protecting a child, whispering a prayer to a household god for courage. A few, the luckiest or the cleverest, find ways to carve out tiny spaces of autonomy. A hidden letter to a friend, a carefully managed household account, A brief walk in the garden before anyone else is awake. But always, these acts must be hidden, their value measured not in freedom, but in the brief illusion of it. Men, too, are not immune to the daily grind. If you are a husband, your days are consumed by duty to the state, the demands of business, or politics, and the unending pressure to uphold family honor. Any sign of weakness, failure, or extravagance can bring disgrace. Many men escape into work, politics, or the company of friends outside the home luxuries often denied to their wives. And through it all, the possibility of scandal, betrayal, or tragedy hovers in the background. Rumors fly faster than chariots. A careless word, a misunderstood gesture, a jealous rival's accusation can change your fortunes overnight. In a world where the line between private and public is razor thin, everyone must become an actor, perfecting the role assigned by society. So you survive by becoming a master of patience, of subtle rebellion, and most importantly of hope, that your children will fare better. Hope that kindness, however small, is not wasted. Hope that one day someone will see and remember the person you once were, behind the careful smile and perfect manners. In the Roman Empire, marriage is not just a test of obedience. It is a test of endurance and quiet resistance. Only the truly adaptable survive. But even they, most nights, go to bed knowing this is not the life they would have chosen if choice had ever been theirs. Perhaps by now, part of you is wondering if it was really so different elsewhere. By some twist of fate, being married in another ancient culture might have been an easier lot. Maybe you're tempted to believe that the Roman Empire, for all its marble grandeur and legal brilliance, wasn't so bad. Maybe you've even bought into the myth that ancient Rome, with its love poetry and golden legends, was a land where passionate romance and partnership flourished. Let's tear that illusion apart. The stories you've seen in films and read. In popular novels, Caesar and Cleopatra's star-crossed love, the witty banter of Roman comedies, the image of a noble matron and a strong, affectionate husband, are just that, stories. They are carefully polished surfaces, hiding the daily, grind and calculated arrangements underneath. Most marriages, in truth, were far more about convenience and control than companionship. Still, it's worth noting that Rome was not alone in its approach. Across the ancient world, marriage was a tool for forging alliances, consolidating wealth, and securing power. In Greece, wealthy women were kept behind closed doors, just as Roman wives were cloistered in the domus. In Egypt, though women had somewhat more autonomy and could own property, marriages still pivoted around family advantage and social status. But even in comparison to these cultures, Rome's system was uniquely rigid. The authority of the pater, familia, the oldest male in the family, was almost absolute, lasting for life and controlling everyone under his roof, even grown sons with children of their own. Women might gain some measure of influence in widowhood or through clever alliances, but for most, the rules rarely bent and never broke. And what of love? The poets Catullus, Ovid, Propertius wrote verses dripping with longing, heartbreak, and desire. But those passionate affairs were almost always outside marriage. Real love, in the Roman view, was a dangerous, destabilizing force, one best left to the realm of extramarital liaisons or confined to the private world of vault, poetry, and song. Marriage was about duty, lineage, and appearances. If you were to step through a time portal expecting the la dolce vita of classic cinema or the dreamy courtships of modern romance novels, you'd be sorely disappointed. Forget moonlit walks and secret love notes. Your days would be measured by chores, inspections, social obligations, and the constant need to avoid gossip. A Roman wedding wasn't the beginning of happily ever after. It was a public contract, often signed before you'd even met your future spouse, and governed by rules you had no hand in making. The reality, as you now know, was both universal and uniquely Roman. Marriage was about endurance, adaptability, and above all, survival. Women and men both lived under the shadow of family duty. The household was the center of the universe, and individual happiness, if it came at all, was accidental a byproduct of luck, not designed out so. Next time you see an ancient mosaic of a beautiful bride, or read about a great romance of the Roman world, remember what lay behind those smiles: contracts, negotiations, anxieties, and a lifetime of silent compromise. Could you survive a Roman marriage? Unless you can find fulfillment in obedience, thrive under constant scrutiny, and transform self-denial into an art form, the answer, for most of us, is a resounding no. So, after this journey through the shadowed halls and noisy courtyards of ancient Rome, ask yourself, could you, someone who has tasted freedom, who is used to choosing your own path, who believes in love, fairness, and even the right to complain about your in-laws, really survive even a single day in a Roman marriage? Imagine waking up tomorrow with your destiny already signed away by others, your name changed, your choices gone, and your happiness considered an afterthought. Imagine a life where every word, every meal, every friendship, even every hope is measured by someone else's standard. Could you endure the endless scrutiny, the invisible cages of tradition, the weight of duty pressing down, day after day, year after year? The truth is, most of us wouldn't. We might last an hour, a day at best, before the longing for freedom, for dignity, for a simple act of self-determination became too much to bear. And maybe that's the lesson we need most from the past. The things we take for granted, our voices, our rights, our ability to choose love or solitude or a new beginning, are more precious than all the marble and gold of the Roman Empire. If you made it through this story, take a moment to be grateful for the small, quiet liberties of your own life. Maybe next time you look at a wedding photo or hear a friend joke about old-fashioned values, you'll remember what the real old days were like. So, what would you do, trapped in a Roman marriage? Would you try to rebel, to endure, or simply to vanish into obedience? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this journey eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe or follow so more people can discover the untold truths behind the myths of history. Your thoughts and experiences make this conversation richer, so drop a comment. What shocked you most? And what would you never want to give up from modern life? Thanks for joining this adventure through time. Remember, freedom, dignity, and the right to dream are hard-won gifts. Cherish them every day.